Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. And this is going to be part 2 of the Strymon Cloudburst. And in particular, we're going to look at the MIDI functions of the pedal. Okay. Now, last time, I had just gotten the pedal, wanted to hear what it sounded like. So, the power requirements for that pedal is 250 milliamps. So, what I did is on my pedal board, just so I could hear it, is I disconnected my Line 6 M5 pedal and just used its connections for the Cloudburst, and that worked, but it wasn't ideal. It's not where I wanted the pedal to be on my pedal board, first of all, and also in what order of the pedals. Now, I have an Eventide H9, which I really, really like. However, remember, it only does one sound at a time. And a lot of those sounds require reverb, so I wanted to put the Cloudburst after that. And we can take a look at it here. Now originally I had it on top of this pedal. That's the Line 6 M5. And I had turned off that pedal. And I missed it dearly, so I went ahead and reconnected the Line 6 M5. And I moved the Cloudburst, because it's so small, to fit on the board sideways here. I haven't mounted it yet, but you'll notice that I powered it up here. So it has power, so it'll be here, and eventually once I get it exactly where I want it, I'll mount it to the pedal board. Now, what I've done here is, here's the output, right? It's that adapter, and it goes out to two left and right stereo for the output, and this actually goes to the looper, and then out to the amps here. And to do that, it comes after the Eventide H9 right here, right? And that's fine, but now I need an input to go to the Cloudburst, and it's actually going to come out of the Eventide H9 outputs and go into the inputs. Okay, so this is just for mounting it and actually connecting it to the board. Which will be really great. And this is what I wanted, was a reverb for some of the H9 sounds. For example, there's a chorus sound and it sounds great, but there's no reverb, so it's kind of lacking. So that'll take care of that. And let me tell you something. I've only had the Cloudburst, for what, a week? Less than a week, maybe. And it's already one of my favorite pedals. And when I unhooked it, I really missed it. Missed the sounds. So it's definitely going to be one of my favorite pedals. And I'll use just dual lock, 3M dual lock. Or Velcro, either one, to connect it here. For the moment it's not really connected. And it's sideways, but it's okay because I'm going to control it via MIDI, so I don't really need to access it all that often, and it's such a simple pedal that even sideways it's easy to use and control. So I'm waiting on some more adapters and things that I had ordered for it. And one of them is going to be this, another adapter here. Left and right breakout, stereo breakout they call it. And that'll hook up to the inputs. And then I have two cables coming out of the H9 into the Cloudburst. And that's a little different than what I was doing before, where I was just using mono in and stereo out. Here it's going to be stereo in and stereo out. I don't know if that'll affect the sound. Probably not, is what I'm hoping. Or at least very little. You know. And we're going to hook it up to MIDI. That's going to be a whole other thing. And that's kind of what this video is about. Okay, now, to take advantage of a lot of the Strymon Cloudburst features, right? Well, it required all kinds of adapters and things, and so I ordered quite a few of them right here. Wow. So, here we go. We'll have an unboxing. Please don't try this at home. Only trained professionals should attempt. Alright, let's begin. First off, look at that cute little box. Amazon Basics. Okay. So let's see what we have in here. Well, there we go. Okay, so this is the first thing. Now what this is a normal USB Type A connector that you usually find, that you connect to a computer's USB port. However, the Strymon Cloudburst has a micro USB. However, it's not a normal one. It's a new one, which is the Type C. And you can see it here. Right there. There's the Type C. So it's very small, as you can see. Anyway, so basically this cable connects USB to the computer. That's my phone. Alright, connects USB from the computer to the Strymon Cloudburst USB Type C connector. So in other words, computer to Strymon Cloudburst. Now, why would I need this cable? And I'll tell you why. One, to load firmware updates. Okay, and there's already been one that I'm aware of. So this will keep it upgraded. And for right now, there's no computer software editor for the pedal. However, that may come in the future. I don't know. And if it does, possibly this cable might come in useful. I don't know yet. But for right now, this is just for running firmware updates. I didn't really have a Type C connector. So there's that. And it was Amazon Basics. It's pretty inexpensive. So that takes care of the firmware update. And for some reason, I assumed that the MIDI functions of the Strymon would be through the Type C USB connector. And thinking that, I tried my hardest to find a Type C connector to MIDI. And it just didn't happen. And I finally figured out, oh, wait a minute, that it actually has a jack. Right? There's an input jack, an output jack, and the third jack is either expression pedal or MIDI. Now, to do that, and this is an idea, I'm going to try it. This is for the pedal board, right? So I'm going to basically enter the presets manually on the pedal, and then have my MIDI controller be able to recall presets from the Strymon Cloudburst. That's the idea, and that takes a couple of things. So we'll go here from our bag of goodies. And this is an experiment. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to try it. And so this is a MIDI cable, and it's pretty small, and boy, man, wow, that was kind of hard to open. Hold on. Let me see what I can do here. Okay. Boy, that's tough. Alright, good. This is... So here's what I came up with. The closest... You know, now Strymon sells a MIDI cable. It's quite expensive. So I'm going to try this and see if it works. And I'm not sure that it will. We'll find out. Okay. Here we go. Now this cable, right, on one end there's a little MIDI connector, okay, and it's a 7-pin male MIDI connector, and on the other end a 3.5 inch. And you'll say, well, yes, but wait a minute. The MIDI jack on the Strymon Cloudburst is a 1/4 inch, not 3.5 inch. Right? In other words, it's not the small headphone adapter, it's the big one, if you like. Well, I thought of that and was quite prepared. And the reason is, I ordered an adapter. See that? Okay. Boy, these are hard to open. Hold on. Okay, anyway, they came in packs of 2s. Always useful, so I don't mind that. And this is 3.5 inch adapter to 1/4 inch. Right? So as you can see on one end, it has a hole right there that you put the 3.5 inch connector into, and on the other end it's just a standard 1/4 inch jack. that will fit into the Strymon. Alright, so let's try that. There we go. Okay. Here we go. So now we've got this MIDI cable, right? MIDI on one end, 1/4 inch on the other. Will that work? I'm not sure, because you might need a MIDI converter as well. We'll find out. Okay, not done yet. Lastly, another one of these. Hosa. That's the brand. And it's a stereo breakout box. Okay. And this is basically 1/4 inch TRS stereo plug, right? And it breaks out into a left and right stereo adapter. And here you would take 2 cables coming from another effects box, right? And the output of that effects box will go into these 2, and this would plug into the input of the Strymon Cloudburst. And remember, I already have one of these on the output, therefore I have stereo in and stereo out. There we go. Okay. Now, the real question for me is, will this work? Don't know. I think you may need a converter to actually use the MIDI. But we'll find out. Maybe this would work, which would be great if it did. Right? Because it'd be real simple to just plug this cable into the back of the Cloudburst and plug the MIDI into the MIDI controller. And there you go. I don't know. We'll see if that really works. And if it does work, we've saved ourselves a lot of money with just simple cable adapter. Alright, so I guess we'll find out. Okay, so I have some disappointments here. Alright, first, the USB-C cable to USB, right, to go from the computer to the Cloudburst pedal. Well, the cable is fine, but to update the firmware, right, you need Windows 10, right? And fortunately, the computers I have around here are much older than that. But that's okay for now, because the firmware updates is really mostly addressing the dry kill mode, which I'm not really using, so that's okay. But this was a fail overall. Now, in the future that might change. So it's not a total loss. So I'll hold on to this, and maybe in the future it will come in handy. And we're not done with the fails. Here you go, remember this? 3.5 inch cable to the cruddy MIDI interface, little cable here, right? First off, we have the adapter to change it from 3.5 to 1/4 inch. So this is still handy, but this cable is poop right here. And the reason is the 3.5 inch end is fine, but I made a mistake and ordered the MIDI cable, not realizing that instead of 5-pin, that it's 7-pin. Right? Makes all the difference in the world. So this did not work. You couldn't plug it in at all. And I had a choice. Either return it or take the risk of maybe removing the 2 extra pins to get it to fit, but it just never did. So this is a total fail. So be careful when ordering a MIDI cable that you get the 5-pin and not the 7-pin. So that was a big disappointment, big fail. However, I have another cable on the way. It should arrive today, which is the 5-pin, and then we'll see what happens to the MIDI. Now, I will say that to set up the MIDI on the Cloudburst is very simple to do, right? To set up the receive channel, you have your choice between 1 and 16, and that was basically just holding down the foot switch when you powered it up, and then you could choose the channel and so on. So again, another fail. Poop. Now what was not a fail was the HOSA, right, stereo breakout for the stereo in and out. Let me show you that. And this will eventually get tucked under the pedal board, right? And as you'll see here are the outputs right here. Okay? And these two go to the MIDI looper. And the inputs are just coming out of the H9 into this HOSA breakout. Right? And so this is basically the output of the H9 to the input of the Cloudburst, which is really great because now it does work correctly. So really, if we followed the chain of the pedal board, basically I start out with a Boss SY200, which is mono. So basically I just have an input cable from the guitar to the input of the Boss SY200. And it has one output, mono, which goes over to the line 6 M5. And from the M6 or line 6 M5, it's mono input and stereo outputs that goes to the input, stereo inputs of the H9. And then the stereo outputs of the H9 go to the inputs of the Cloudburst, and the output stereo of the Cloudburst goes to the looper. Right? And to be quite honest, there's so much going on here underneath the board. You know, because you don't want this all hanging out here, all this stuff. So it'll be tucked, you know, underneath the board eventually, but I wanted to show you that. So that worked really great. So we're getting closer to getting the MIDI to work and everything, if I could get the right cables. So we will see when they arrive. So as you will recall, I had ordered the wrong cable, the 7-pin MIDI cable with a 3.5-inch adapter, and that was a total fail. Wouldn't plug into the pedal or anything. But I received a replacement today, and I'm pleased to announce that it works successfully. And let me show that to you. Now there's the Cloudburst, and I've added the MIDI pedal to the MIDI controller right here. And just as a test, I went ahead and made a preset. We can hear the guitar. This is with everything off. So that's pretty basic. And I went ahead and went through the instructions and saved my first Cloudburst preset and configured my MIDI controller right here. So watch what happens when I hit this button. The Cloudburst is going to turn on and is also going to play the first preset. Because if I turned on the Cloudburst as it is now, you'll hear it. You can definitely hear the guitar in there. Now watch what happens. Alright, I'll turn it off again. So everything's off. Now I run it via MIDI. We have the MIDI controller. Okay. There we go. It turns on. And that's the way the first preset is. It has no guitar, it's just synthesizer. And if I turn it off, watch this, Cloudburst will turn off too. So that's with it off. Now that's with the very first preset. So if I'm playing guitar, for example, I turn on the very first preset here, Cloudburst. I get turn it off and go back to just the standard playing. So if I was to run a loop, for example, just okay. And now I'm going to do an overdub with that MIDI preset Cloudburst. And there I'm running the guitar loop and the overdub Strymon Okay. And remember, I have 300 presets that I can make. It's a little tricky at first to figure out exactly how they want you to save the presets and recall them. But once you get it down, it's pretty simple and straightforward. So finally, that is a success, and I can recall MIDI presets, right? And that just doesn't include the Cloudburst, but all my older presets using the other pedals, I can now edit and add the Cloudburst if I want it on or off and that kind of thing. And which sound do I want it on? And I guess that'll be the next part of it. So we'll do another video once I've done that. So far I only have one preset. So I'm going to work on that and create presets and edit them. So not too shabby. I did make a mistake, of course, with the 7-pin MIDI cable, which is useless for me. So that was kind of a bummer. But once I got the right cable, it wasn't too expensive, you know. Worked out fine. The Hosa stereo breakout cable, of course, worked great as well. And finally, the USB-C to USB computer cable to run firmware updates. Can't really use right now just because of the Windows operating system I'm using. However, in the future that'll probably change. And for right now, the firmware update is mostly for the dry kill mode, which I'm not using. So there you go. Wanted to share that with you. So that's a little more insight into the Strymon Cloudburst. And it looks like the MIDI does indeed work as advertised. Pretty amazing. You know, and that took me a little while to figure things out and get things wired up. I'm also going to clean it up on the pedal board, you know, get some of the cables underneath the board, you know, just to keep it clean on there. Alright, very good. See you next time. Okay, bye.